They laughed when Leicester hired Claudio Ranieri, not because he was unknown, not because he lacked experience, but because he felt like the wrong answer to the wrong question at the wrong club. Leicester City had only just survived. They had escaped relegation in dramatic fashion, winning 7 of their last 9 games and somehow turning disaster into hope. The squad had momentum, the fans had emotion, and yet the club changed manager. Nigel Pearson was gone, and in came Claudio Ranieri. To many people, it made no sense. Even the reaction around football was disbelief. This was the man many still remembered as the Tinkerman, a coach known for changing too much, a coach some believed belonged to the past. Leicester were expected to fight for survival again, not to dream, not to build, not to shock the world. But inside the club, the story was different. Ranieri did not arrive like a man desperate to prove he was the smartest person in the room. He arrived with warmth, with humility, with curiosity. He impressed the board in conversation. He connected with the ownership. He spoke about football with passion, with detail, with love. And most importantly, he did not try to burn down what Leicester already had. That may have been the first genius move. Because this squad did not need a revolution. It needed direction. Leicester already had spirit. They already had scars. They already had a hard edge, built during the chaos of the season before. What they needed was someone who could take that raw energy and shape it into belief. And Ranieri quietly did exactly that. At first, he had to adapt. The dressing room still carried loyalty to Pearson. Many of the players believed the old methods had saved them. There was resistance to too much change. Training routines mattered. Habits mattered. Even the rhythm of the week mattered. So Ranieri listened. He understood something that many managers never do. Sometimes leadership is not about imposing yourself. Sometimes it is about recognizing what already works and protecting it. He kept key staff around him. He trusted people already inside the building. Craig Shakespeare remained close to the players. Steve Walsh stayed central to recruitment. The structure stayed stable. And that stability would become the foundation for one of the greatest seasons football has ever seen. Because while Leicester looked modest from the outside, inside the club, they were making smart decisions everywhere. One of them was named N'Golo Kanté. At the time, he was not a superstar. He was not a headline. He was not the player the world was chasing. But Leicester's recruitment team had done their homework. Steve Walsh kept pushing, again and again. Kanté, Kanté, Kanté. Ranieri needed convincing. The player looked small. Maybe too small for the Premier League. Maybe too light. Maybe too risky. But Leicester trusted the scouting. They paid the fee. And football changed. Because Kanté was not just a midfielder. He was a storm in boots. He covered spaces that should not be coverable. He turned danger into control. He made impossible recoveries look ordinary. And he gave Leicester something priceless: security. Behind him, Danny Drinkwater found consistency. Beside him, Riyad Mahrez brought magic. Ahead of them, Jamie Vardy played with chaos in his veins. And slowly, the pieces began to fit. Ranieri also made a crucial tactical call. Leicester had finished the previous season strongly with a back three. It had worked. The players knew it. The club knew it. But Ranieri saw something else. He scrapped it. He shifted Leicester into a shape that gave them more clarity, more balance, more speed in transition, and more protection in the spaces that matter most. This was not complicated football, and that was exactly the point. Leicester did not try to dominate the ball. They did not try to impress with endless passing. They did not pretend to be something they were not. They defended in 2 compact banks. They stayed disciplined. They stayed together. And when the moment came, they exploded forward. Fast, direct, precise, brutal. Vardy attacked the space. Mahrez attacked the defender. Okazaki ran until his lungs were empty. Drinkwater fed the breaks. Kanté cleaned everything behind them. It was simple. But simple does not mean easy. Simple, when done with total commitment, can be devastating. And Leicester were devastating. What made them different was not only the system, it was the hunger. This was a team full of players with something to prove. Jamie Vardy had come from non-league football. Riyad Mahrez had been overlooked. Kanté arrived with little noise. Danny Drinkwater had been discarded by bigger systems. Robert Huth and Wes Morgan brought experience and defiance. Christian Fuchs added intelligence. Kasper Schmeichel brought presence. Shinji Okazaki brought sacrifice. These were not players protecting reputations. These were players chasing meaning. And that changes everything. Because when a team is built on hunger, every duel matters. Every run matters. Every recovery sprint matters. Every second ball matters. You could feel it in the way Leicester celebrated tackles, in the way they chased lost causes, in the way they refused to behave like underdogs, even while the world kept calling them that. But Ranieri's greatest achievement may have been emotional, not tactical. He made the environment light. He brought humor. He brought calm. he brought humanity. This is where football stories often get misunderstood. People think greatness always has to look intense, cold, aggressive, relentless. But Leicester showed something else. Joy can also be a weapon. Ranieri was famous for his warmth, for his little sayings, for his laughter, for the now legendary dilly-ding, dilly-dong wake-up calls. He kept the pressure from crushing the squad. He kept the dream from becoming fear. Publicly, he repeated the same message: 40 points, safety first, no title talk. But inside the group, something was changing. Belief was growing. One of the key moments came in a draw against Manchester United. To the outside world, a point was respectable, maybe even good. But inside the Leicester dressing room, there was disappointment. Why? Because they no longer felt grateful just to compete. They felt they should win. That is when a story changes. A team stops being a surprise the moment it starts judging itself by bigger standards. And Leicester had crossed that line. Then came one of the biggest tests of all. Valentine's Day. Arsenal away. A brutal, late defeat. Leicester had played with 10 men. They fought. They suffered. And then, in the 95th minute, they lost. It felt cruel. It felt like the kind of result that breaks fairy tales. This is usually where small teams fall away. This is usually where doubt finally enters. This is usually where reality returns. But Ranieri made another brilliant decision. He gave the players time away. Not more pressure, not punishment, not panic. Space. He let them breathe. He let them step away from the noise. He let them reset. And when they came back, they were stronger. That response told the whole league something important. Leicester were not just riding emotion. They were mentally built for the race. From there, they did what champions do. They kept going. No unnecessary drama, no identity crisis, no fear of the moment. They trusted the formula. They trusted each other. They stayed settled. That consistency mattered. Week after week, the team barely changed. The structure barely changed. The roles barely changed. In a season where richer clubs kept searching for answers, Leicester already knew theirs. And while the football world obsessed over possession, percentages, and complexity, Leicester kept winning with clarity. They did not need the ball to control the game. They controlled space. They controlled timing. They controlled the emotional temperature of matches. And behind the scenes, the details were just as sharp. Their injury record was outstanding. Yes, some of that was luck, but not all of it. The club invested in recovery, in sports science, in monitoring, in communication between coaches, medical staff, and players. They used technology. They tracked physical condition. They paid attention to recovery and fatigue. They created an environment where problems were addressed early. Sometimes that meant a player working on an exercise bike at the side of the pitch during tactical work, just to stay involved without risking damage. It sounds small, but titles are often hidden inside small things. That was Leicester's secret. Not one miracle. 1,000 smart details. A manager who listened. A scouting department that saw what others missed. A squad full of personality. A dressing room with humor. A style with discipline. An atmosphere with trust. And a season where every piece aligned at exactly the right time. Then there were the stars. Jamie Vardy, with the aggression of a man still trying to prove he belonged. Running channels, attacking space, scoring in record-breaking fashion. Riyad Mahrez, all balance and imagination, turning defenders inside out, creating beauty in moments where others saw only pressure. N'Golo Kanté, the heartbeat, the lungs, the safety net, the player who made the whole machine possible. But the truth is, Leicester were bigger than any one player. That is why their title felt different. It was not built on one superstar. It was built on collective conviction. And maybe that is why the story still matters so much. Because modern football is supposed to belong to the giants, to the biggest budgets, to the deepest squads, to the clubs designed to win before the season even begins. Leicester broke that script. Not by pretending money does not matter, it does, but by proving that football still leaves a crack open for something else. For chemistry, for timing, for recruitment, for courage, for a team that becomes more than the sum of its parts. They were 5,000 to 1 outsiders, a number so absurd it felt more like a joke than an odds line. And yet, by the end, the joke was on everyone else. The same appointment people mocked became a masterstroke. The same squad people dismissed became champions. The same club expected to survive ended up unforgettable. And that is why Leicester City's title was not just a football achievement, it was a reminder that not every great story begins with power. Some begin with doubt, that not every champion looks inevitable. Some look impossible. And that sometimes, in a sport drowning in money and certainty, the most beautiful thing of all is the team nobody believed in refusing to stop believing in itself. Leicester City did not just win the Premier League. They gave football back a piece of its soul.